Did you know there are 5 gods for Yule that were celebrated, that were brought into the celebrations for certain reasons? So if you're interested to find out more, carry on watching. Hi guys, Tuva here. This is going to be a bit of a rambling video. It is one of those things, I've got a lot going on at the moment, and I know the videos have not been coming very quickly, and I'm very sorry for that. So today I wanted to talk about the 5 gods of Yule, and they are used for certain reasons. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through each one, but also talk about the festival of Yule, what it is, what it meant to those, what it means today. The colours that you can use for Yule would be red, green, gold, but anything that really means it to you. So white, silver, anything. When you look outside and you see the snow on the floor, or you look outside and you see dismal skies and darkness, you can use black and silver, you can use gold, you can use anything that means something to you. So don't be told what you can and cannot use. It is an individual thing at the end of the day. Now, Yule is a celebration that actually means winter nights. There is a celebration which we talked about earlier in the year, which is also called winter nights, Winterfallith, or Vinterfallith. But at the end of the day, Yule sometimes gets muddled with Christmas, and the reason for that is because the two festivals are linked. In the old days, when the pagans and the heathens were pushed by the Christian church, they infiltrated the two festivals together, which really makes Christmas pagan. But of course they've added their bits to it, but they've taken our bits away as well. So when you look at it, it's all to do with winter solstice, between the 21st of December to the 23rd of December. Nothing moves, the sun doesn't move for 3 days, and it is a time when in the ancient times they would do rituals and celebrations, because the ritual would be to ask the gods to bring the sun back, and the celebrations would be the belief that it would happen, that they would see the sun again. When it come to this celebration, they had 12 days, and the 12 days would be in pure celebration and rituals, seeking the gods for the future. So how much more would it make sense that they would have a Yule log? The sense of it would be that they would be seeking the gods to be with them in their celebrations, and to realise that they've worked hard all year, and they were asking really that they would be looked after for the following year. The animals that would be used to be sacrificed to the gods would also be used for the feasting, and also be stored for that cold winter months. It was the darkest time of the year, and so having so many candle lights and celebrating bonfires and just having that light and that warmth and that hope for the sun to come back made it wonderful to be together as big families or big villages, and they would be together for that 12 days and nights. And so it would start with the Yule log. The real Yule log was one that was huge, and it would be stoked into the fire, and it would be burnt for that whole 12 days. It was representing the promise of fertility for the following year. It was also, so the Yule log was a great piece of oak tree. It was stoked and kept alight for that 12 days and nights because it was classed as a very bad omen if it was to go out. So it was kept alight. They would carve runes into it. They would carve messages into it. It would be a focus to ask the gods for their protection, ask the gods for favour for now and the coming future. So you can see it represents the whole family, the whole of the village, the hope for the future. And it was very important, and whatever was left over from that Yule log was used the following year. If you look at the Yule log, how the Christians then took it over, it would be a log to be a beacon of light for the Christ child to be able to see and focus on you. So it was Christianized as well and is still used to this day. Of course, we now have chocolate cake done in a Yule log shape, but many pagans also use a Yule log. Some have long candles. I always put the small ones in because really we don't burn it constantly. It's more done for spell work and for decorating your dinner table. So when you're having your Christmas dinner or your Yule dinner, you would put this on the centre, and as each person arrive, in our tradition, you set a place for everybody, and as they sit down you light the Yule candles, and that is basically asking the same thing of the gods to protect these members of the family, to protect the household, and to be with us on that day and seeking their help and guidance. So you can see it has a big meaning. Now I know the video today is about the 5 gods used, but I thought I would just go over what it all means first so that you get an idea. Obviously there's lots of you out there that already know all this. It is tied in to winter solstice. A lot of the European countries and the Nordic countries are in darkness and not a lot of light during the day. So it is so much more glorious to have this beautiful festival of light, of hope, of the sun coming back, because the sun, actually, we need it. We need it for our sanity, we need it for our growth, for, you know, fertility, for all the things that we get in the summertime. Because we don't have that in the winter, we miss it greatly. And so to have that hope that it's going to come back again and the days will start to get longer again. But of course, remember, it's not just the 21st. It is between the 21st and the 23rd of December. And so now let's get on to what I was going to do, and that is talk about the 5 gods. Yule is about, or winter solstice, if you want to just use that term, it is a festival of remembrance, remembering those that have gone past, because we also bring the ancestors in, remembering what we've gone through, but also that hope for the following year. So it is a festival of 2 ways, not so much of deeming the dead or thinking of the dead, but more about the luck of our ancestors, that they've had and passed on to us. So we are really seeking the gods for their favour to allow that to carry on in our families. So we are getting good luck from our ancestors. We want that to carry on so that we can then pass it on to our children and our children's children. And to also recognise the gifts that the gods have given us for that year that's just gone, and to hope that they would also help you the following year. So this is why when we bring the 5 gods in, we can give to them and to bring them in close to us, that relationship that we need with them. The sacrifice of the animals was done the blood would have been collected into big bowls, and some of it would be smeared onto statues of Odin in particular. But Freyr, no, because these are the gods I'm going to be talking about. Some of them didn't want the blood, some did. So Odin would be smeared with the blood, and the rest of the blood would then be scattered with the branches of the trees, and they would flick it over everybody, and that was a blessing. That was life. It was giving you life for the following year. Life and fertility, because in the blood is the life force. And so it was being shared with everybody, and nobody got missed out. There was also another way some people celebrated, and that was with Modranakt, or Modranekt. And that was a celebration of Mother's Night. But that was also about a sexual type of ritual that was done. And that was because they wanted to promote life rather than death. The sun was standing still for 3 days, and it was a very frightening time. They wanted to make sure it's going to come back to life. So they would end a lot of the celebrations in this sexual climax to bring back life. And so not everybody did it, but some people did do this. All-Father Odin, he had experienced life. He'd experienced so much more than the other gods had, and they looked up to him and revered him for all his knowledge and all his ways, and the fact that he was able to wander the earth and he knew so much. He was known as Yule, Yule-Father, really the essence of the festival, and renowned for all he had to tell people. And so his stories would be told around the fire. They would be celebrated for all he had brought to people, and he was graced with their love. All the gods that were going to be used were called Yule beings, because there was more than one of them. And so the main one, obviously being Odin, would have the first sacrifice done, and a statue would be put up, runes would be carved, spells would be made, and the blood would be smeared upon him. The festival, the giving of food and drink to him and his companions, obviously slept near, and all the other things, there's the ravens, and everything was thought of. And so food was given, ale was given, mead was given, but also the blood of the sacrifices. And that could also have included human sacrifice too at this time, because it was a very desperate time. They're in the pit of the darkness. So Odin, the All-Father, had the knowledge of the runes. He had the knowledge of magic. He also knew men and women both. He knew everything, and he was their All-Father. So he was graced, the first god. He knew so much. Freyr. Now, obviously, Freyr was a fertility god, a god of peace, even though he was also a warrior. We are taking the peace side of him for this festival. So he would be sort of petitioned for the things needed for the following year. The libation of mead or wine or beer, anything that was to do with the fertility of the crops. So with wine you have the grapes, with beer you have the hops, and so it goes on. The libation would then be poured upon him, and requests in runes and written word would be put with him to be answered for his favour. And also they knew he was a warrior too, but they were asking for his peaceful side to be with them. Now Njord, the god of the sea, the god of travel, the god of prosperity, and he would protect. And so a statue of him would be put there. Not so much adding stuff to his statue. If there was a raid or something about to occur, or travelling in this day and age, if we're going to be travelling on the sea or in an aeroplane, doesn't matter how we travel, even if it was a small journey, Njord would be asked and would be petitioned. And so a huge toast would be given to him, honouring him for his help. People would speak out what it is that they would need for their travels, for what was going on, the prosperity to enable them to get there, and the safety of the sea to keep them away from anything that might hurt them. So Njord was a very important god at this time of the year, considering the weather. You know, if you had to travel from one village to another, you were going through some terrible territory, and so you can understand why they would want him there to seek his protection. He was also linked to Freyr because Freyr was the god of prosperity as well as safety and protection and all the good things, the peacefulness, and of course he would be used to give safe passage through life, and so Njord would give safe passage also. Life is a journey, and so how much more do we need to ask these two beautiful gods for their favour? Of course, Thor rode the sky in the chariot pulled by two goats. The Yule goat was used because it was significant, for Thor was protection. He was also there as a warrior, but he was the protector of Midgard, the one that saved them from all the other entities, and the spirit of him and the goats would be acknowledged, and so a goat would probably have been sacrificed in his honour to show that they honoured the goat, and it would be a kid goat. We wouldn't do that probably today, but it was done back in them times. So when we look at the goat today, it is made out of straw because the significance was that you gave that last sheath back to the gods. You didn't use it yourself, and that was to gain their approval, their love back to us, a gift from the gods. And Thor, with his thunder, his power and his protection, was honoured at this time of the year, and he did love his beer, so beer would have been given to him, or mead. He did like his drink, so that would have been poured upon his statue with the blood of the goat too, because the goat was the one that pulled his chariot across the sky. And at a later date, the goat was also known as the present giver and became part of the reindeer and Father Christmas, who I always believed was Odin. And so when you look at that, you can see there are so many traditions bunged together that you have to decipher it all to take from it as you want to. Guys, it is basically what you want to believe at the end of the day. But of course we are talking about the past, we're talking about how it was done, but also you have to also know that different villages would have done things slightly different, and so you can take from the different stories. And then of course the other god would have been, or goddess would have been Sol, for the sun was the most important thing. This was going to bring back life, it was going to bring back light and health and vitality and fertility and everything that is needed, the sun, Sol. And so that she would have been invited, and so we would see the product of her in the food that was laid out, in the things that we had acquired over the year. And a big toast would have been given to her to welcome her back, to welcome her into their lives again. And of course a toast would have been given and a place set out for the Haminja, for the ancestral spirit, the thing that gave, as we spoke earlier, the luck, gave what was to be in your families for the following year. We would want them to be present, to give us all that they had to offer, and so we could pass that on again to our loved ones and our future generations. They would have been the gods that would have been used, and of course, as I said earlier, different villages may have used different gods. They may have had different ideas on it, and so you cannot take it as set in stone. But I know they are the gods and the goddess that I use at Yule, at winter solstice. And of course, being from England, we may not be from Scandinavia, but in England we do have a very strong Anglo-Saxon heritage, and so we have a lot of the Nordic beliefs. And of course, Odin would have been Woden, and I think sometimes that is forgotten, that we have this steeped tradition in the Norse and the Nordic practices. And this time of the year, I love to bring all the gods into my home for winter solstice. So I hope this has helped some of you in some ways. This is a very quick video and not so involved, as I have a lot going on at the moment and it has been rather stressful. But I will get back on the ball, and I just wanted to give you something for Yule before it was too late to do anything. I know we've still got a few weeks to go, but I wanted to do something for you. And so thank you to my new subscribers. I really do appreciate it. Thank you also to those that are always with me. And if you want to know more about all the other gods, I do have other videos which I'll list above. And there I'm going to leave it. And hopefully I will put another one up next week. But if circumstances get worse in the situation I'm in at the moment, then obviously I hope and wish you all a wonderful Yule. But I'm going to say I'll be back next week. So wherever you are, whatever time of day, night or evening it may be, I wish you the best ever. House of Verlang.